But I'm happy with what I make. Everyone in the whole organization is being taken care of. If you're complaining about money, it's either because you ain't fighting good enough and getting new contracts, or you're just not satisfied with anything. So
Yes. It's easy to complain. It's a lot harder to go do something. Today I'm chatting with the homie Brandon Allen. Brandon's been in the UFC for 3 years. He went through a Contender Series, 3.5 years in.
yes, sir.
Won 9 out of his last 11 fights. Got a 3-fight win streak right now. Former champion at LFA. Then he had to move on to bigger and better things. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming through.
Of course.
We got a lot of friends at the same gyms. I've been to at least one of your fights in person, and you're doing real good. You're on your way up, climbing. You're only 26. What's the goal? Where are we heading?
I'm trying to be a champion. I feel like I'm finally starting to hit, my time. I'm getting bigger, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting better, constantly evolving. It's that time for me, I feel. And I'm finally believe in myself. I feel I've filled in all the holes that I needed to fill in as far as, mentally, physically. So now it's starting to all come together, and I think it's finally starting to show.
So you're right at the top 15 right now? You got a number yet? You're right at there.
I think I'm number 16. If we had a 16, like if they ranked a 16, I'd be number 16. But I've been there before, so it's just different timing.
So you get one more W, 2 more Ws for sure. You're going to be up in the top 15 rankings?
I think so. People always talk about rankings for me like a number after like every fight. And it's just like... I've had that opportunity to fight someone with a number 3 or 4 times, but it's got taken from me from things outside of my control, meaning my opponent pulled.
You're scared. If you back out of a fight with him, means you're scared. Don't be scared, ho. Don't be scared.
Facts. So, I feel it's not right for someone to get a number without beating someone with a number. So whenever someone talks about, oh, hey, you think you're going to get a number next week after I fight? But no, I'm good. I don't want it. I don't want it. I personally feel that it should be, if I fight number 10, I beat number 10, I should be number 10. And so on and so forth. So that hasn't happened yet. So I'm good with just being outside, fighting whoever I can fight when I want to fight, and stack as much money as I can and keep adding the wins to the record.
How things started off for you? So you got... You go into the big events now. You've been in the big stadiums, at Apex Center too, with the small intimate places. So you're making your rounds all over. You got many fights in UFC. How things start off for you before you're in the big stadiums with the bright lights and all the people?
Local shows. I was an amateur in Biloxi, Mississippi, which wasn't far from where I live in Louisiana. I did all my amateurs there because I was able to be 17 years old and fight there with parental consent. So I fought there. When I turned 18, I went and did the IMF, or the UMAF tournament, the United States Mixed Martial Arts Federation tournament. So if you win nationals, which I did, then you go to IMF, which is international, and you have all different countries come there. And so I went there, and so at nationals you fight 2 times I fought 2 times in 3 days, and then for Worlds, you fight 4 times in 5 days, which I only fought 3 because one of my opponents pulled on the day of the event. Said he was sick.
Scared.
I don't even remember where he was from, to be honest. Said he got food poisoning. I don't know.
Scared. Sounds like he was scared.
So I won that, and then after that, for me, it was time to go pro. I went pro in Louisiana, and just local shows, which, to be honest, at this level, I miss it because there's no shows that come to Louisiana, and at least they haven't in a long time. UFC hasn't. So I miss having my family and my friends there. My brother's paralyzed, so he can't come to my fights far out. So I'm really trying to push for one to come to Louisiana, somewhere, New Orleans, Cajun Dome in Lafayette, somewhere pretty close, so my brother and my family and my kids can come. I don't care win or lose. That's never been an effect to me. Well, it was, but now I'm at the point where I can't control that. So
has there never been a UFC show there?
There was, I think, it's been a long time. I don't even remember the year. Maybe 2015?
Gotcha. Yeah, I know that there's a big stadium right downtown near the French Quarter. I forget what it's called, but there's a stadium downtown that's
They got the Superdome and the
Superdome.
Smoothie King Center. Smoothie King Center is right next door. It's where like the Pelicans play and arena football. That's where they normally hold them. Like when the UFC was there. The UFC's been there a couple times, but not in a long time because I don't think the gate did too well last time. But to be partial or not to not be partial, they also didn't put a Louisiana guy on the card till 2 or 3 weeks before the fight when it was Dustin Poirier fought Yancy Medeiros. And he was a late addition. So, but now we have so many fighters in Louisiana from Louisiana are very close. You know, we got Texas, Mississippi that, man, they could sell a damn good show. So, hopefully that happens 2023, 2024. Hopefully that's what I'm praying for that. I want to have my family back close.
You want to be on the card with Dustin and down in New Orleans?
That'd be awesome. I don't think we've ever been on. I have been on a card with Dustin. When he fought Dan Hooker, they took my bonus.
You took your bonus?
Yeah, I would have had that $50K. And then,
oh, I see.
And then they fought, of course. They got after it, them two, and took fight of the night. So I lost that $50K. I knew it after the first round, though. When they started, I was sitting in the hospital, and I'm like, first round ends, I look at my friend, I'm like, it was Gerald Mearshire. I was like, hey, G, we ain't getting this $50K anymore. They just started laughing, but yeah, I like it. I like the energy. Plus, I like how me and Dustin are kind of similar. Like how he acts. Like you saw it after his last fight that just happened with Chandler. Like he's still talking. If you say something to him and he says something to you, he means it. I'm the same way. If I say something to you, I mean it. So the energy is just, I don't know. It's just different. I don't know if it's just that Louisiana energy or whatever, but it's nice.
I spent time around Dustin a bit, and we did an interview in the past, and I thought he was nice guy, good dude. And,
great guy.
I was we talked about this briefly earlier, but when him and Chandler fight, I'm like friends with both of them, and I'm like I don't want there to be a loser. I feel bummed that somebody don't get their hand raised, but it is what that's
business.
That's their sport and their business, so that's what's up. But you have these situations in life where people that you're friends with both of them, or even very close with both of them. How do you think about those things when those type of things come up?
I've had so many friends fight each other that it's I just stay out of it. I don't. If someone asks me who you're going for, I just hope they're both healthy. I hope they're both healthy and they go home to their families. My friend Ton Lee fought Martin for the 1 FC belt. I think it was 135, 145. They fought at 145, and same thing happened. Like, Ton's a really good friend of mine. Martin's a friend of mine, training partner as well. They're like, oh, you're going to tell our secrets. And obviously they're just joking with me. And I'm like, I ain't telling nobody nothing. I'm not saying who's going to win. I'll message both guys before the fight, tell them I wish them both good luck and good health. And that's it. After the fight, I'll text the winner, congratulations. Text the loser, keep your head up. If you need anything, let me know. And I hope you're healthy. Every time. For me, there's no difference. We're still friends after. Hopefully there's no hard feelings from their side, which I've never had. But, I just stay partial, stay out of it, or not be partial.
So you started off in Louisiana. You started off down in the South. I know you spent time in Milwaukee. You were training up in Milwaukee for a while. What happens? How's this transition happen from small operations to the biggest operation in the world?
So that was it got to the point where I was fighting, pro, and I was training with Rich Clementi and my friend Zach Fears, and Zach was a 55er. Rich was starting his business outside of fighting, to pay his bills and do his thing, and so he didn't have enough time, but he was still making the time for us, and I seen that effort from him to train with us still, but still it was still me, Zach, and Rich. Excuse me. And how does that work? When I'm an 85er, he's a 55er. Our coach is there, but he can't train with me. So I had no one to really push me. I had the knowledge. I had the focus on me when it was time. We focused on Zach, obviously, too, when it was his time, because he was fighter, too. And but it just got to the point where I didn't have the bodies. I didn't have the push. I wasn't growing anymore because of that. And so Tim Crater was actually, which I've known for a while, he's from Louisiana. So he was going to Milwaukee it was called a GORE at the time. It's where all the affiliates of Rufus Sport would come in and you learn and you train and you hang out together for a few days, and you could bring some students. Tim said he was going, plain and simple. I went with him. I went there, and it was funny because I called out Gerald Mearshart, like, to fight him because he was on the local scene like me, or regional scene. And so I called him out to fight him. Obviously, that's his gym. When I called him out, his best friend at the time, or one of his best friends, Mike Biggie Rhodes, called me out. So I reached out to them before I got there, and I was like, look, man, I'm coming. I would like to come and train, but that's y'all's home gym. If y'all have me, I'd love to come train with you guys, see what happens. But if not, I totally understand I won't come. They both were cool with it. Little did I know, behind the scenes, they had put a hit out on me. So when I show up, I'm running through the gauntlet. It's bang, 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 bang. I'm getting them, other guys, and I mean, we're sparring, but we're basically fighting. Mm-hmm. And I obviously think I held my own then. Some rounds I took a little more lumps than I wanted to. Some I gave a little bit more. Either way, we stuck it out. Afterwards, we were all cool, and I realized that was what I needed at the time. I'd never been to a big gym before then. Never a gym with a name, and at that time, man, we had a great room. At that point, it was me, Mike Biggie Rose, Gerald Mearshart, Rafion Stotts, who's the interim champion at Bellator. We had both Pettises, Jordan Newman. I mean, man, we had so many guys, and obviously the list goes on actually from there. But those were like the main guys I trained with that were bigger. And JP St. Louis, we just had a great room, a great bond. And then, life changes, things change, and guys start going their own way and moving and trying to find their way in life as far as a career, because fighting doesn't work out for everyone. And I got to the point where I didn't have any bodies there either, so I knew Jared Gordon here, and I'd already been down here before in Florida, and that's where I made the move. I only had a week to do it because I was going into camp, and that's how it worked. And now I'm here in Florida, and now I'm kind of training in Florida and with the guys in Philly, and then with John Marquez and Daniel Gracie. But Daniel's pretty much moved to Las Vegas, so I'm kind of bouncing all around. And for me right now, that's what I feel is best for my career.
Gotcha. So you got you won most of your fights. You won. Well, I just looked it up. We had 9 out of 11. You got a good momentum. Great training partners around you right now. You got a hell of a room. I've been to your gym over here, and you got a hell of a room of talent over there. A lot of very talented guys. A couple of current champions, some former champions. No doubt, some future champions are in the room. Yeah.
Definitely.
What's the mood like over there versus other gyms that you've trained at? Why is that your primary gym?
So many bodies, and not only so many bodies, so many talented bodies. To be honest, some days you don't even need a coach. You can learn it from your training partner because they're so high level and so good, and you have so many different looks. If you can't find a guy that's similar in some way to the guy you're going to fight, your opponent, then you got a serious problem. Or you're fighting someone crazy that, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, there's someone for everyone. And that's kind of why. There's so many talented guys, so many different looks. And there's a bond there as well. There's always a bond, no matter where you go, with guys that you're punching in the face and getting punched by and hugging on, basically, as everyone would like to say for jiu-jitsu. But that bond just grows and grows when you're going in there and you're like, man, I got to wrestle with Phil Halls today, or I got to spar with Gilbert Burns today. Like you're like, I don't want to, but I have to. And there's just that something, and obviously we're all men, we're all athletes. Some guys are more insecure than others when it comes to letting people know, like, hey, he kicked my ass. He's kicked my ass. Will that happen in a real fight? I don't know. It may. But there's many days that I get my ass whipped by guys that I never would expect, and there's many days I go in there and I'm like, I really don't want to get my ass kicked by this guy right now, but I know it's going to happen in this aspect. Mm-hmm. So it's that bond is always there as well.
Glover Teixeira comes to trains with me once in a while. Every 3-4 months, Glover comes through, and I picked him up from the airport once, and we're in the back of the Maybach going to train together. And Glover said, "Oh, how you doing, Derek? And how's your training going?" And I said, "Well, I'm losing almost all of my matches." And he said, he looks confused, like sincerely confused. And he's like, "Wait a minute, but who you were training with?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, Chuck Liddell and Frank Mir and Gilbert Burns and
The list of killers.
Jared Brunson and so on and so on." So, and then he started laughing about it, and he's like, "Oh, okay." That made sense then. So,
Yeah, you got a list of monsters. You're like, oh, what do you expect?
yeah, well, I learned a lot from those guys, and
Of course.
I'm not a pro fighter like you are. 43. It doesn't seem like I'm likely to turn pro anytime soon.
We can make that happen, though.
I hear in some of the smaller promotions, Dana hasn't called me yet to fill in at 265. So till Dana calls me, I guess I'm still a free agent, huh?
That's a fact.
Yeah. How much do you think I could get paid? And so I got about 1 year of training in. So halfway to purple belt, some halfway between blue belt and purple belt. I'll have my purple belt next year for
Man,
sure.
I think just with your image, we can get you at least to 2,000.
At least 2 and 2?
Yeah, at least. With your image and your abilities, I think we can get 2,000.
So if I win, it could pay for at least some portion of my medical bills.
No, they should cover that.
They'll cover that too?
Yeah, that should be under their insurance.
No, I see.
No, you're gonna walk away with that 4K.
I got to give 10% to my manager and some more to my training team.
True. You're right. So you might walk away with 2,500, 3,000.
Oh shit!
It's good. It's good time.
2,500, 3,000 for.
Hey, that's a great start for a pro debut.
No, that's fair.
Like 500 and 500.
That's fair. That's a lot more than most guys get when they start pro, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I remember my 500 and 500. I thought I was big timing when that happened.
Yeah.
500? Yeah, for your debut. I'll take it. That was my perspective when I was there. Now I'm like, 500. Y'all still doing that? They're like, yeah, man. Some guys don't even make that. I know guys that pay on local shows. Like, I heard 200 and 200. I was like, I wouldn't even crank my car for 200 and 200. Even when I was at pro debut, like.
It's a rough way to make a living.
It's crazy. Like, I don't know, man. But, hey, I guess at that level, I remember it just seeing the bigger picture, I remember seeing UFC or Bellator or something like that. Obviously, it was UFC for me and everyone that I knew at the time. But that was the bigger picture. It didn't matter how much I was making now. We all figured, we didn't know, but we figured the big money, the big money is there. Little do you know, when you get there, you're making 10 and 10, 12 and 12. You're like, and it seems like a lot when you're coming from 500 and 500, but then life hits and reality, and you're like, this ain't that much money, and it goes really fast.
It's a lot of people, it's easy for them to talk about that organization, like, oh, they don't pay much. And like, well, if you compared to other sports, if you're a baseball player, you could play whatever, 140, 160 games a year, whatever they play.
Right.
Why don't you fight 160 days a year? Or, in basketball, I think that you could play 80 or so games. If you go through the playoffs, you might play 80-something games. But it's tough to fight 80 days a year, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, the camps are tough and they take a toll and they last a few months. But, no, you're right. Like, for me, I can't recall ever fully complaining about money. Like, I'll be the first one to tell you, I think everyone wants to make more money no matter what you do.
I hope so.
In
any area of life. If you don't want more,
what are you doing?
You poor thing.
100%. So I think everyone wants to make more. When you look at the statistics that some people reveal of, like, we make, like, 16 to 19% of revenue, whereas other sports make 30 to 40 something percent of that revenue. When you look at it, it's kind of makes you a little aggravated. Like, man, you can pay us more if you wanted. But for me, at least when it comes to the UFC, I don't complain with what I make. I've worked my butt off to get to what I make. I'm okay with what I make. If I wasn't okay with what I make, I'd go test the waters. But there's more money to be made.
I think the good news is, just from a business perspective, and I never say anything bad about the organization because I think they're a fantastic organization. I enjoy going to their events. I know a lot of people there. They treat me well. Everything's good. They spend a lot of money on marketing that other organizations aren't, and they're growing that industry more and more and more. That you're young enough that you still be a significant beneficiary of them growing that and growing that. But if you think the whole sport is about the same revenue as say 2 football teams or 2 basketball teams or 2 baseball teams, it's still an early sport where that league, if you will, is the premier league. If you think of UFC as the premier brand of the leagues, later in life they might be. I mean, you see what happens, that over time there's it's more and more popular. There's more eyeballs on it, more sponsors, and I think there could be a lot more money over time, because they're growing it that way. So, easy to criticize in the distance. If you think it's easy, go build your own $10 billion organization and see how easy it is.
See, but that's one of the 2 ways I look at it. So I look at it 2 ways. One, for me, I feel I'm going to be a champion one day. And don't get me wrong, I may be delusional. Every fighter probably feels that way, especially at this level. I guarantee you they do. So I feel like I'm going to be a champion one day. I know what comes with being a champion. Those dollar signs are going to come. That money's going to come. So as long as I do what I need to do, it's going to come. But I also look at it as number 2, and this is what many, many people don't see, how the UFC takes care of their employees. I respect that. I work for the UFC. I'm employed by the UFC, but there's many other people that work behind the scenes with the cameras and, the videos and everything else behind the scenes, the business perspective. And, Dana's the head honcho that everyone sees. He's the face. He does everything. So I'll just relay it to Dana. Dana makes sure that all those people are taken care of. For instance, when COVID hit, he didn't take time off and all those people got paid. Every single one. I respect that as a person. So for me, if it means I'm not making as much as an NFL player or something like that, would I like that? Of course. Who wouldn't? But I'm happy with what I make. Everyone in the whole organization is being taken care of. If you're complaining about money, it's either because you ain't fighting good enough and getting new contracts, or you're just not satisfied with anything. So
it's easy to complain. It's a lot harder to go do something. So you're a guy that's you made a habit of getting things done, and a great point that you make is a person's success in life is about directly proportional to the goals they're able to accomplish or the obstacles that they're able to overcome. So if you want more money, you keep winning fights, you're going to get more money. You're going to get endorsements. You're going to get a lot of other advantages in life that I don't think would happen at a different organization.
No, 100%. And that's exactly that was another thing that I miss is exactly that. It's the UFC has way more opportunities than other organizations, and that's not being super for the UFC. That's a fact. Like, you take a champion from Bellator or ONE and look at what a champion for UFC does, like what they get and the exposure they get and the financial things they get, and it's I promise you it's not going to be close. What this UFC champion brings in versus what these other 2 champions bring in, I would be willing to bet my paycheck that it's not close. So, and like you said, that comes from the marketing. That comes from the eyes that they bring in, the relationships they have.
Where did things get started for you? When did you start? Where did your martial arts journey start? And when did you have that click in your head to be like, man, I can be in the biggest organization, or man, I might be the champion of the biggest organization?
For me, I started at 13 years old in Louisiana doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It was a Gracie Baja at the time. My brother switched schools. He had a friend that was doing jiu-jitsu. His friend said, hey, would you like to come train? And at that time, I was playing football. I think I was just finished my I was about to finish 11 and 12-year-old football. And they're like, hey, you want to come? We were watching UFC on the weekend. I was like, yeah, I'll go. We went and sat down. We watched the class, me and my dad. And I was sitting there. I remember I was looking at it like this, and it was gi, and obviously I didn't really know too much about a gi other than I did taekwondo before that for a very, very short period of time, so I knew a little bit of what a gi was. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, hey, that guy's grabbing his clothes. That doesn't seem right. And so anyway, at the end of the thing, I was like, Dad, I want my own gi. He was like, no, you can use one of the loaners until you see if you like it. I said, Dad, I promise I'll stick with it if you buy me a gi. He said, all right, you're set for at least however long the contract was. He's like, you're coming no matter what now. So we started the next week because it was at the end of the week. I think it was on a Thursday or a Friday. Started the next Monday. I was still playing football. I finished that season, was still doing jiu-jitsu, and I stopped playing football, and my life was literally consumed by jiu-jitsu. I did everything jiu-jitsu. I still probably have an old photo somewhere of a Chuck Liddell-style mohawk for the first ever event, you know? Because at the time, that was the figure, that was the idol. So I did the first tournament, I got like second and a third or something like that. And I was hooked. I was hooked to start. It went from there to training every single day, to studying, to being with my group of friends that were only jiu-jitsu. When I went to school, I come home, I did jiu-jitsu. I didn't care about football. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about anything else. And as I got older, I fell into training with my friends Kurt, who are all MMA guys, but they just wanted me for jiu-jitsu because my jiu-jitsu had gotten pretty good pretty fast. And so they just wanted me for jiu-jitsu. So I was, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. So I was teaching them jiu-jitsu that I knew, or just helping them by doing jiu-jitsu with them. And by that, I'd be in the area and learn the little bit of striking. And my dad boxed, so he would teach me a little boxing. And it just kind of all worked out. I was learning this martial arts and this martial arts, and I had to figure out myself how to mesh it all together. So it took a while, and I'm still learning some ways. But it went from that to eventually one day, after traveling around the country and competing jiu-jitsu and building this name in this martial arts and being around this guy who's a stud at mixed martial arts. Hey man, you're old enough to fight next year. You gonna fight? Maybe? I'm not sure. Maybe. Next month. Hey man, it's getting close. You're gonna fight. That just keeps happening and happening. So eventually, when I was 17, it was your turn, and that's how it happened. I just fell right into it, and at that point, I was doing it for the love of it. I just love, and I still to this day and always have love competing. But I won't lie, at one point I lost the love for fighting, and I just gained that back. And so that's been a weird, roller coaster, but that's how it all started.
I'm going to go back to that, but how long did it take you? So you started jiu-jitsu at 13. I know you got a black belt today. How long did that take you to progress through your belts with that type of enthusiasm?
So I'll start off by saying I got stuck at purple belt for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
It got super, super political where I was from, or where I'm from. I seen guys that I was smoking in the gym, that I was gaining medals in big competitions over them, and they weren't even placing. And I was training more than them. I was doing everything more than them. But still, somehow they'd get a stripe, another stripe, another stripe, a new belt. And I'm still sitting here. What's the deal? I don't understand. And basically come down to the later that I was preparing for my MMA journey, and I was going to train at other gyms because I needed actual MMA, and the guy that ran that school didn't like that, but would never say anything. So he just kept holding me back, and I was competing and winning and making his name bigger. It was doing good for him, and so it became super political. I stopped training there. I went to a different gym, but I stopped doing gi. So anyway, I just never had a professor, a consistent professor, and eventually when I went to Rufus, eventually my friend branched out and did his own school, was doing his own thing, and same thing kind of happened to him, but not as long. He wasn't held as long. But he gave me my brown belt, and then from there I was still competing a little bit because I was more into MMA. And eventually I finally got my black belt, but I think it took me 13 to 3 years ago. So 10 years, 10, 11 years to get it. And yeah, and when I started, it was supposed to be 9 to 12 years to get a black belt. So I guess it kind of fit in like that. But yeah, it took longer just because I stepped away and stepped out of that realm. And still to this day, like I just competed a jiu-jitsu match on Friday. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I have no ego in jiu-jitsu anymore, to be honest. Does it bother my competitive side? Yes. But the kid tapped me the fastest I've ever been tapped in a competition. And I go back and I'm like, Brendan, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, you need to train more. We need to get back to competitive jiu-jitsu. So like, because like I said before, I may be delusional, but like where I'm from, I still, even after that, I feel I have the best jiu-jitsu of anyone in my state. I don't think there's anyone that'll beat me. Like granted, that kid beat me. How it happened, he beat me, I lost. But I still think my jiu-jitsu is better. My jiu-jitsu as a whole is better. Basically, I took him down. We almost went off the platform. Then got my hands, I bent down like a Wagner Rocha style, how he's big on the grip. And when he did that, he sat back, so I was connected. So I went over with him, and he went right for my leg, which I knew he was going to do. So we went, and I had to kind of like step over, or else I would have just crunched my neck. So I tried to step out of the leg lock, and he went right for a straight ankle. He stretched it, which when you're sitting, you can't really get as much leverage sometimes. He was a shorter, compact guy. So he stretched it, and I felt it. Don't get me wrong, I felt it, but I was like, not going to happen. And then I pushed the leg down. I sat over, proper defense. And for some reason, I don't know, this is where I came back to that I need to compete more because the competition mindset's different. You never know. Because never done this in training. I pushed the leg, I sat over, and I remember looking at him for like a split second. And for some reason, I jumped back over to the opposite side. So basically, I sat over the leg and then jumped all the way back over the opposite side. And when I did that, he still had the straight ankle, and he basically just rolled with me. And so I gave him a belly down straight ankle, which is way more leverage. And when he did that, it started popping, and I was like, I fight for a living. This ain't me, you know? So it was great. He did a great job. He did what he was supposed to, but that's where I was like, I need to compete more.
Well, you still learn new things every day, and people that don't get stuck right where they're at. So let's go back to that, topic you mentioned, finding your love for things again, that sometimes you were training hard, or you were, became, I don't want to say it in my words, so maybe in your words, but why did you fall out of, love with the game, where you didn't have that same enthusiasm for a period of time, and how did you get that back?
To be honest, I don't know exactly how I fell out of love with it, but I just remember I wasn't enjoying it. I was going, and don't get me wrong, I'd have certain days, but for the overall grand scheme, I go in the room and I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to train. I guess maybe doing it every single day since I was 13 and living my whole life around it, that was my life. Traveling, that was just my life. I guess I had a wife, I had kids, I had all these things, or even when I didn't have kids, I knew I wanted those things. So I always said that fighting does not define me. I love to fight, but that's not who I am. You won't be like, oh, there's Brendan, that's the fighter. I don't feel that way. So fighting doesn't define me. So I knew that I needed to kind of get away from it for a little bit, but there was no way to get away from it because I had to fight. I had to make money. I had to keep growing. And at the time I was winning, and people expected so much from me, and contender series calls. I win that, so I get signed. I go to the debut. I win that. So things are just winning, so I can't stop. What am I going to do?
Don't stop winning.
So I'm still going, and I'm still trying. I have the 2 short notice losses in the UFC, and because before that, I lost the LFA title twice, and those kind of hit kind of hard. Those made me second guess, am I really as good as I think I am? Am I as good as everyone says I am? And then I'd be in the fights, and I'd be like, man, I don't want to be here. What am I doing this for? And I remember eventually having that conversation in a fight with myself of, hey, I had those conversations many times, but why do I want to be here? But I remember having it in the corner, like if I ever say that again, I'll never fight again. I'll never fight again. I'll walk away. For me personally, because I don't want to be in a fight questioning myself and my abilities and if I want to be there with this guy wanting to be there and wanting to hurt me. So I made that promise to myself and it never happened again. So that's when I started winning and everything was going good. And I had a couple losses and, you start questioning a little bit again. But then all of a sudden, one day I just kind of wake up and I'm like, I'm excited to go train. I'm excited to go learn. I'm excited to go get beat up. I want that challenge. And then you start seeing everything that I worked for since I was 13, I finally start seeing the rewards when I'm 25, I think. I start seeing a little glimpse of it. And I'm like, it just brightens my eyes. I'm like, holy shit, like, this is it. And this is just a small piece of it. I don't know, man. I just fell in love with that drive again, the feeling that I get when I watch those fights, when I watch myself fight, when I picture me fighting. I start getting those chills, and I was like, it's one of those things, I guess, like with a woman, you're like, man, am I in love with this woman? And then another day comes, and you're like, man, I am in love with this woman. So I was for fighting again. I was like, I love this. I really love this. And so that's where everything's coming. I think that was another big thing for the last fight for me, was feeling that love again, embracing those challenges. And I hired a mental coach that helped a lot with how I viewed things and how I spoke of things. And it just kind of revamped the way I thought. And that helped a lot. So I think those two things combined really, really changed. And hopefully I can just continue to grow from that.
When a person just changes a couple little thoughts in their head, if you change your thoughts, you'd have to change your behaviors. If you had better thoughts, you'd engage in better behaviors. If you engaged in better behaviors, wouldn't it be normal that you'd have better outcomes?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't get that. But I think a lot of that does start with having nice to have a positive attitude, but at least a firm commitment. So at least a firm commitment is kind of where you said you started off at, that when you told Dad you're going to do it, well, all right, now you got to do it for at least that time, you know? So firm commitment's a great place to start. Without that, you're not going to get anything else done. You can have a positive attitude and no commitment, but nothing's going to happen. So commitment has to come first. But if you could have that and the positive attitude, or a strong why is this important to me? Why is this what I'm doing? Why is it important to have a certain level of outcome or whatnot? Those things put together are really quite powerful, that you can get a lot of things done that a normal person wouldn't do.
I 100% agree. And that's how we worked on a lot for this last fight, was that. Exactly everything that you just said, that's what we worked on. And I think another thing that also helped was being able to, get rid of, that macho mentality. I was kind of raised you're a man. Be a man. I don't know, maybe it's a Southern thing, I don't know, maybe it's an old-timer thing, but I was raised like that, so now I don't feel like I'm too, manly. I know I'm a man. I know I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm not scared to tell anyone, hey, man, I'm scared right now. I'm not scared of the man, but I'm scared to go fight a man that wants to hurt me. I'm not scared to tell my feelings, and then surrounding myself with people who encourage that certain behavior that I want to, portray. So, my best friend Tuco, I'll tell him. I told him, I'm not going to lie, I told him the night before the fight, when we did our shakeout, because the timeline we did it at night. And, they looked at me, and everything was going good, and then all of a sudden it was just literally, straight down. And they're like, what's wrong? And I look at Tuco, I was like, I'm having that doubt, man. It's here. That was one thing that my mental coach told me. He's like, man, you have to embrace it. You can't keep shoving it down, because it's going to keep showing. But then when it does show, you're so mentally and fatigued from trying to suppress it. So I think that was a good experience. But having those guys that will listen to me and be able to bro, you're good. Or it's going to be all right, you've done this before. This is nothing new. having those people to help you through that and navigate that was, I don't know, that was a big change for me. And opening up in that way was a big change for me. And I know a lot of younger guys are like that. I know personally a lot of guys that are like that, and even guys that are older than me that are in the UFC. Like it's hard to help someone that's older than you in a way that they don't expect from a younger guy, I would say. So it's hard for me to kind of help some of my friends that I feel need that for their fighting and their career. But for me, it was great. It was great to hit that, like I said, it's great to hit that point of view to where it's like I'm not scared and I'm not too manly to express how I'm feeling or tell you how I'm feeling. Obviously, I'm not going to say it in a press conference like, hey, man, I'm nervous as hell. I'm not going to do that, but I'm not scared to say that, hey, in the back, I'm nervous. I'm going to go fuck him up, but I'm nervous right now.
You know, that's the key element, though, is that, you know, there's a lot of guys out there today, they're more concerned about their feelings than their goals. There's a whole lot of people, men and women, they're a lot more concerned about their feelings than their goals. And, you know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't really give a shit about my feelings. My goals were always a lot more important to me than my feelings were. And if my feelings aren't going to help me accomplish those goals, well, I could feel whatever sort of way I want to feel, but the goals are more important. So there are plenty of times I wake up and I didn't feel like doing something, or, you know, I slept 3 hours and I had some difficult something to do. And I'm saying, I don't feel like it. And then I just laugh at myself and like literally I just like chuckle and be like, yeah, if your goals don't care about your feelings, or the money gods don't care about my feelings. The success gods don't care about my feelings.
But that's why you're successful.
Go do the thing. Exactly. And that's the point I mean to make, and that's why you're successful too, that you might not feel like doing something, but you're still going to get over there and kick that guy's ass.
And I think that's been a very mature process. And when I look back on certain things, I tell people, like, they ask me questions about, like, oh, why'd you lose this, or why'd you do this, or something like that. I was immature. And I wasn't immature in the point of, like, life in general. And don't get me wrong, I'm still immature with some things that I do today. But I was never immature of, like, say, like a family portion. I never had that immaturity of, like, I can have a kid and I'm too immature to raise that kid. But for fighting, I had an immature mindset. I wasn't prepared for those times. I wasn't prepared for that big lights. I wasn't prepared for that pressure. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I thought I did, but I didn't. Looking back, like, I was too immature for it. And that's all I can sum it up in that one word. And now it's like I feel mature. Like it's just I can feel it. I don't even know how to express any other ways in words or examples, but I feel it, and that's where I feel like it's coming into my time. Like it's just now getting started for me. My career is just now getting started, and I haven't even shown half of what I'm capable of. So that's where I feel I'm going, and I feel that'll be a big change. But exactly like you said, my feelings, I'm not scared to shell them. I don't care. If you think I'm a bitch for it or whatever, I don't care.
I don't have no judgment about somebody's feelings.
No, I mean in general, like just fans in general.
Yeah, I think it's silly to judge somebody's emotions, but you got to judge their outcomes. And you're winning the fights and doing the thing, and you say you want to be a champion in the future. Well, you're doing the right things. You're winning. You won 80% of your fights. You got a nice win streak going right now. I was watching your last fight. It was Singapore, yeah?
No, I fought Jocko October 1st. Singapore was right before that.
Okay, I got you. And I saw that one on television. I go to Apex all the time, but they didn't have they didn't have the tickets. I don't necessarily have to talk about that, but they didn't have tickets for that event because Zuckerberg, he took my seat. We'll talk about that when I see you. I see you training a little bit. We'll see how good you are when I see you, Zuckerberg. You don't want no trouble, little fella. You don't want no trouble.
We're on him. We're on him. When we see him, we're on him.
All right. Olenek was on that card with you too. Alexei Olenek is a buddy of mine, has taken the time to choke me and contort my spine and I always joke with Olenek that, if he's not a professional fighter anymore, he's 45 years old. And so he's going to be a chiropractor in his next life because
For sure.
you crack your spine in all sorts of ways. I don't know if it's any good for you or not. Probably not. But any case, yeah, I didn't make it to that because I couldn't get so I watched it on ESPN. But yeah, I was with Gilbert Burns and I were watching you in Singapore when you were on the Singapore card. We were watching from Chicago. We were training together at my studio over there. We were checking out your fight. So
That's great. Yeah, that was to me that was my worst performance in the UFC. I don't know exactly why. Like, I know in the second I was too complacent. I was satisfied with being on my back. He wasn't doing nothing. I was still hitting him. But I hate how those type of fights get portrayed as like, oh, he beat you. He beat me where? He had a minute and a half more control time, but I more than doubled his strikes. I had more fight-ending intentions than he did, which he had none. When I got on top, all my intentions were ending the fight. I gave up so many positions just trying to finish. And then trying something new and getting taken down 7 times was not a smart idea, but you know, that's one of those things. It's just a learning experience. I learned a lot from it. That was my first time out of the country. There were so many things, and overall, it was a successful experience because I won, but it was different. It was different.
you won.
I won.
All right. Forrest Griffin says, I think this is a funny thing that I picked up from Forrest. Forrest says it's important to have fun, but nothing's more fun than winning. I think that makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense, and that is factual.
When he said the first part, I'm like, I don't know if fun is so important. But then he says, but nothing's more fun than winning. And I'm like, okay, I got it. I'll take it.
That's the highest of highs.
Mike Tyson has this quote about, doing something you hate. You might not feel like it at the moment, but if you're dedicated to doing something, you have to have the discipline to do something you hate, but with a commitment like you love it. Do it like you love it. And I think that sort of thought has carried me through a few of those dark moments where you don't feel like, I don't feel like it right now. I don't want to right now. And I think it's interesting to, you brought up feelings a couple times. So I think it's interesting to riff on that just a bit where, a lot of people, if they don't feel like it, they just don't do it. But then their results are, well, there's none. There's no results. And, for a person to get those results consistently, like you got to go do the thing, man. You got to go especially when you don't want to. Yes. You got to go do, especially when you don't want to. It's important to show up. It's maybe the most important time to show up is, especially when you don't want to. You got to go do the thing, or you start building a habit of being a quitter. And quitter is one step away from loser. And that's no fun. There's no fun there. So, do you have any thoughts on this general topic? How to get that extra performance out of yourself at those moments when maybe you don't feel like it?
For me, it's I feel as if a person doing those activities, they learn a lot about themselves. You learn a lot about yourself when you don't want to do something, but you force yourself to go do something. Speaking from a fighter's perspective, there's going to be times when you have a fight and something's not right. Maybe you're sick, maybe you're getting sick, maybe you have something going on in your personal life. Whatever it is, it may make you feel like you don't want to be there or you're just not ready to go and compete. So how do you battle that if you've never battled it before with just something as small as not wanting to go to the gym? Who knows your reason? You could be tired, you could be sore, you could be hurt. You just don't want to go, but you go anyway. You go find something you can do if you're hurt. You go and push through that training session and you learn a lot about yourself, and afterwards, 95% of people I've ever talked to, that when that happens to them, after that session's over, they're like, I feel great. Mm-hmm. You learn a lot about yourself in those moments and in those situations when you don't want to do it. So I feel like that's the biggest thing you can always take away. And it's also in your mental, it's also in your mentality for where you do eventually come to those times when you have no other choice but to go and do it even though you don't want to. Because for fighters in training, if you don't want to go train, you don't have to. There's no one saying, come on, let's go. There's none of that. But when it comes time to fight and it's fight night, can you weasel your way out? Of course you can. I'm sick, this and that, I'm hurt, whatever. You can. But 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be just because I don't want to fight. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be that. So you have to, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. You have to go fight. And if you haven't pushed through those times in the gym or in the fight camp, how do you know you're going to do it? How do you know you're going to perform? How do you know those things? You don't. So, like I said, you learn a lot about yourself in those moments.
I make the most money when there's a good panic in the economy, when people are frightened, when there's a deep recession, or some sort of hysteria or something bad happens. I make the most money during those times where the people fall apart, their psychology breaks down, and they panic sell things, and then they realize some period of time later, days, weeks, months, they're like, oh, that stuff, there's really nothing wrong with those assets. There's just a lot of people were scared at that moment, and it creates this cascade of selling. And I don't get to pick when that time is. I just have to be ready.
Right.
I don't get to pick when that time is. So and I keep my schedule booked, about 3 months ahead of time. Schedule's pretty full. So when one of those moments happens, that means I'm going to be very sleep deprived for a period of time. I'm not going to sleep much. I'm still going to take care of everything else that I agreed to take care of because that's what I do. And, if you don't have that level of preparedness, then you're just going to miss out on some of the best opportunities available in life. There's no other way to think about it. So, it's related to this general topic. It's important for me to keep my word to somebody. So I keep my schedule booked, 2-3 months in advance for I'm going to have this done by this time. I'm going to have this done by this time. I need to get this thing done over a longer period of time, but I'll keep chipping away with it, at it whenever I have a couple spare moments. My training regime right now, that I lost over 30 pounds, and my body fat's down a lot, strength is up, fat is down, skills are up a lot. Yeah. Feeling good about that. But I have world champion fighters, current champions or recent champions, or OG Hall of Fame champions come through and train with me all the time. Like, am I going to tell Royce Gracie, hey bro, thanks for taking a week out of your life. Thanks for taking 8 days out of your life, Royce, to come hang out with me for more than a week. But I don't really feel like it today, bro.
Ain't gonna go over too well, right?
I don't think he can make it a priority to come back in the future.
Right.
I don't think he's gonna be able to make that a priority. So, if Chuck Liddell is with me for a few days, am I gonna? Oh, hey man, there must have been a time where you didn't feel like it. Yeah, it's that time for me. Let's just chill instead. Let's just we could watch some movies on the Hallmark Channel, Chuck. So I don't think he can make it a priority to come back if I do that,
Right.
So it's important to me that, of course, I'm going to show up and go get things done. And if I got a cold, I'm still going to go work. If I got a little flu or something, I'm still going to go work. If I got a bad headache, it doesn't matter, But all those excuses, most of that shit's in your head. And about the time you quit making excuses, you can continue making progress. But you can't have you can have your goals or your excuses. But have you seen a lot of successful people? You see a lot of champions make a lot of excuses, or they just mostly focus on those goals?
Focus on their goals. Get to it.
Oh, you mentioned earlier that the shows in Louisiana area or down in the area that you grew up in, that you'd like to see more activity on the local scene down there. But you're actually doing something about it, that you're starting an organization to help some of the local kids, on their way up and get their first pro fights and whatnot. So you want to talk about that a bit?
For sure, yeah. So, as everyone probably knows, I've been around the local scene for a while. I've seen how it comes and goes, but I sat back and just viewed it, learned, and seen so many mistakes and some good things. Either way, I took it all in, and I felt it's finally time for me to start my own promotion and start my own way with my own views from everything that I've learned and been through. And I just want to give back to not only the fans, because obviously they're a big part, but the fighters as well. When I say I want to give back to the fans, I just want to give them good fights, real fights, fairly matched fights, not so uneven that this guy's going to win. I want good fights and reputable fights. So that's what I mean when I give it to the fans, and obviously they'll get a good experience as well. It'll be a great experience to come to the event. It's not going to be trashy. It'll be very well kept, very maintained, and a great atmosphere. As far as the fighters, where I come from, there's many promoters that don't care about the fighters. They're only there to make money, just money. They don't care how they can cut corners to get there. They just care about making the most money they can. For me, this doesn't pay my bills. Hey, maybe one day it might pay most of them or some of them or do something. But for now and for the foreseeable future, it does not pay my bills. Fighting pays my bills. So I'm not looking to make crazy money. I'm trying to give these fighters, these young upcoming fighters, a feel of a big show. Eventually, I'd like to get a production deal with Fight Pass or Amazon Prime or something like that so that they can get their name out there on a bigger scale. But most of all, I want them to be treated like a high-level athlete. A pro will feel like a pro. An amateur will feel like what a normal pro feels, but a pro on my show will feel almost what it's like to be on Bellator or UFC or something like that. They'll have that kind of feeling. Obviously, it's hard to give them that if you're not in a huge venue and have millions of people and all that stuff. But as far as the cage that I bought, just for these fighters, I want them to feel exactly what a UFC Apex cage feels like. I put the money into the right things, you know what I mean? But for me, it's keeping your word to that fighter and that team. So that's a big thing. And another big thing that I made different with my promotion, a lot of people say this, but it's not fully true. Anyone that a fighter or a team will talk to from my promotion will have been a fighter at some variable, whether it was a low level, high level, mid level. They will have been a fighter. They understand those feelings, those emotions. They understand the things to look out for, such as the behind the scenes of a hotel, a flight, a travel, things like that. They'll understand all these things and what they're going through and the sponsors that they may have for shorts. And that's another thing for my promotion I invested into myself, was making sure that I have. Bellator has their shorts, right, that they give to fighters that don't have logos and stuff like that. So you may go to a local event and there's going to be a guy with basketball shorts. There's none of that. If you have basketball shorts, you're going to take these and you're going to fight in a real short. Now, am I forcing anyone to wear these shorts? Of course not. But if you come to my event and you forgot your shorts or you have basketball shorts, we got a pair for you. And anyone else who wants them that will fight in them will get a pair. Fighters will get a T-shirt, a custom T-shirt for them or for the event, particularly for the event and probably for themselves. Like, it'll probably be custom to them, like a UFC shirt would. And, that's just the start. Eventually, I want to get to a point where they keep their gloves, they keep, their shirts, they have something, they sign their posters, they keep a poster, just like a UFC setup is for Fight Week. And they're still going to do the poster signings and things like that. So there's going to be so many things that these fighters get that feel of like, hey, man, this ain't just a normal show up, weigh in, next day I come back and fight, They have this feeling and sense of being proud of themselves and like, hey, this is something bigger. That's what I want for them. I don't want kids to get to a big show and then be like stunned by the lights, So that's my goal, is to give them a bigger pedestal.
How would that have helped you on your way up? How would that have helped you to, be better prepared for the bigger things that came when you're flying internationally, you're going to some of the biggest stadiums around the world, now and in the future? How do you think that would have helped your path?
I think fighting in that cage, because I fought in some small cages, fighting in that cage, feeling that canvas, having a crowd around and being on TV earlier, or even the cameras being around. Because I remember the first time I had a camera in my face. And I lost that fight. I won't tell you it's because of the camera, but I lost that fight. And like I said, a lot of people blamed it on the camera. I never did. I still don't. But who knows? I don't know. And so I feel like even just having it there in these guys' faces, and that's where you see a lot about people, like that's where you find out who stars are going to be. Even if they don't have the talent right now, how they handle that is a big thing. That's where you find a lot about guys, and you find stars from that. And but to answer your question, it definitely would have helped me. It would have helped me, I think, a lot. And that's what I want to give to these guys. I want to give back to these guys because this sport's growing. This sport's getting better. It's evolving. Kids are coming up better, and I want to be a part of that, at least from my area, because I know, to me, in my state of Louisiana, Dustin's the king of MMA. Dustin Poirier is the king. People will say Daniel Cormier, but I don't believe it. Daniel Cormier left as soon as he got the chance. He never represented Louisiana. He come into it and figured he found it. Oh, you're Louisiana, we'll show it. Dustin never fully left. His family's there. He always come back. Even when he moved to Florida, he still come back, trained, he gave back, and he's always given back to the community in some way, whether it's through the Good Fight Foundation, whether it's through training or whatever it is, he's given back, always. So to me, he's the king, and he gives back, and he makes sure, plain and simple, to give back to the next generation, and that's what I want to be able to do. I feel like I'm at that stage in my life where I can start to do that, and by starting it now, I think that leaves so much room for growth. As I continue to grow, this can grow with me and be bigger, and I can just keep giving back through that.
I hear you. Sweet. Well, I hope your promotion goes good there. You got a first event coming up?
February 25th.
February 25th? Where at?
That's it. It's at the Castine Center in Mandeville, Louisiana.
Mandeville, Louisiana. I don't know where that is exactly.
It's right on the other. So the causeway separates the North Shore and the South Shore. New Orleans is the South Shore. Mm-hmm. It's literally right on the other side of the causeway on the North Shore.
I got you. So you're right on. It's in New Orleans, essentially, or suburb of New Orleans.
Yeah, it's right on the other side of the causeway. Only thing that separates New Orleans and this basically is Lake Pontchartrain.
Gotcha. I know what that is. I know what that is. This is the big
really
link. This is 23-mile bridge across the...
Yes, longest bridge over water in the world.
I know where Lake Charles is. I know where a few things down there, Lafayette. But so New Orleans suburbs, February 25th?
Yes, sir.
How do they find out more information about it?
allincombat.com, or you can go over to their Instagram at AIC MMA, and we update that, and it has the link to their website and link to everything. That Instagram is money.
Check out Mr. Allen. Where do they find you on social media?
They can find me on Instagram at B_Allen185, Brendan Allen on Facebook, and Brendan Allen MMA on Twitter.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Respect.
There are so many ways to make money in real estate, which I simply wouldn't know about if I hadn't gone through the program. We covered property types ranging from residential properties to all types of commercial properties, a broad range of strategies ranging from wholesaling to house flipping to buy and hold to BRRRR, which you can implement depending on your goals and depending on your circumstances to make money in real estate. It has been very valuable for me to learn a lot about property evaluation, in particular around the financial aspects of evaluating a property. I learned a lot about different return metrics, such as cash-on-cash returns, the return coming from appreciation of the property, the return coming from loan paydown, and the return coming from potential tax benefits. I would say this knowledge overall will help me in the future to make a lot better decisions when it comes to investment in real estate. It has opened me up real estate as an additional source to build future wealth and future income, in particular when the opportunities in the stock market become more scarce than they're at the moment. I would recommend this program to anyone who wants to learn about real estate, but who is willing to put in the necessary work, the necessary, I would say, minimum 20 hours a week, because it requires a lot of effort. It's a very intense program, but I think really for anyone who wants to use real estate going forward in their wealth building journey, I can highly recommend that program if they are willing to put in the required work. Thank you very much.